prefer to to get a recording as well, so they can refer to it later. So a formal good afternoon, good evening to everyone with another series that we are in. And like I mentioned over the email, Sudin brings a very special caliber to talk about this subject of headless technology around, because we all have been seeing it very closely now with how things are changing, specifically the boost that COVID had in terms of the perception of how technology can play a role to take it to the next level. So with that, I think someone who is very close to it, and I heard him in one of the conferences also when I think he was part of SBI. He really brings a lot of understanding of how technology is, what are the challenges as well, because while uh, some of the recent technology trends, whether we talk about blockchain, and a lot of work is going on as well, but he has been privy to what is going on around our financial services in terms of adopting blockchain, etc. Whether we talk about AIs and the newer technologies which are developing, he stands at a real, I would say, pyramid on top of the pyramid to speak about it, specifically because of the experiences that he have had. And his profile, everything was shared, so I won't spend a lot of time there. We are all waiting, or keenly waiting, to hear from Sudin himself. A couple of points as we start. So Sudin, you can, the way you would want either to present, and maybe if you want to take questions in between, we can take a pause after 20-25 minutes, take one round of questions, and then we can do it at the end of it, whichever ways it suits you. So if you just want to take questions at the end of it, that is also fine, because I think audience will be something where we'll be able to manage it much better. To all the people who are attending, a request, please put your question on the chat box, and definitely I think we have a good chance that you can also ask in person, but at least that will help us to coordinate it better.
Yeah, I may not be able to switch my screen, so if Chandan, you can just moderate that those questions on the chat box, that'll be great.
Yes,
yeah? So we can,
I will do that.
We can keep it interactive, because this space is extremely requires, there's miles to go in this space. So we can keep it interactive, and even probably after 5 or 10 minutes, we can have a series of questions just to keep it a little more lively. Yeah.
Sure. I'll do the coordination on it. You can continue the way you would like to take it. Maybe around 5:50 we can 6:50 we can take a pause, and we can just take Q&A from there. In any case.
Yeah. I mean, we can have like after 10 minutes, we can have some questions, and then after that, we can after 6:50 we can have.
Sure. All yours.
Thank you. So thanks for hosting me. Thanks to the IMCI chapter and all the promoters of IMCI. I'm Sudin Baraokar. I've been in the ID space for more than 2 decades. I call myself a humble innovator, come from very large organizations, State Bank of India, Barclays, IBM, and GE. All these organizations are very, very old organizations. State Bank is more than 2 centuries old. Barclays is more than 3 centuries old. It's more than 340 years old. IBM and GE are more than a century old. All of them have survived, sustained, and even today prospering. And one of the key things I learned from these great organizations, and I was, by the way, you thought that I was some kind of just an employee out there. I was never an employee out there. I was always an entrepreneur, always on the transformation and innovation side, always trying to do something different. And all the successes I have seen have contributed to a very large impact to society. All right. And I will go over some of those successes, and also highlight some of the digital transformation programs that I'm implementing now on the other side of it, both as an advisor on emerging tech, as well as a founder of deep tech startups, and talk about the headless next generation digital transformation platforms. In 2018, 2018, as head of innovation in State Bank of India, I benchmarked our core banking systems at 24,000 transactions per second, TPS we call them, approximately 1.5 billion transactions in a day, to serve more than 500 million plus customers and 700 million plus accounts. This is the most powerful, sophisticated, advanced, state-of-the-art core banking system in the world, made in India, made by Indian technologists. And today we can see the success of these core banking, the success of these innovation and transformation platforms, which serve the citizens and society absolutely without any failure. Right. So you can see that the digital transformation is not a domain of the West or something that we have to keep copying paste. No, we have done this in India itself. And you can see that all the banks, all the banking services were absolutely working perfectly at the time when our citizens required it the most. During lockdown, we could do all these transactions, and we have invested in these digital platforms, these transformation engines way back. We were challenged. We were asked. In Barclays, we started our digital transformation journey way back in 2010, where we launched our Barclays internet banking, Barclays tablet banking, and we were questioned. All this investments, all this risk taking. Are we going to see the benefits? Right. In 2018, we launched our YONO, You Only Need One, from the SBI stable. This was a complete bank in a box mobile application for more than, I just checked with the team. Although I'm not in SBI anymore, but I do mentor a lot of the SBIans and a lot of the technologies associated with SBI. Sorry, can everyone hear me? You see my screen? Okay. So we can see that all these investments we made are extremely successful. No bank even comes close to what we've achieved, 700 million plus accounts. No bank in the world is even one third of that. And all this we have done because we took the risk. We took the initiative. We wanted to invest in emerging tech, in hype tech, and all of it succeeded. So the concept and the delivery of digital transformation is not rocket science, or is not a hype, or it's not a show off. Although I do love to show off on these figures. Why not? But it is actually proven. And my mission and our mission is to not only make India, we are already the IT services capital of the world, but we want to make it now, we should make it now the innovation, transformation, and emerging tech capital of the world. And why this is important is that we have seen that these hype technologies like cloud, for example, which started way back in early 2000, right? Today has become the dominant standard, the compute network storage platform of the world. Everybody, we all use it. We use private cloud, public cloud, multi-cloud, hybrid cloud. I must confess, as banks, we were always flip-flopping on this cloud journey. All right. We initially said, yeah, okay, we'll do private, and then, okay, maybe we'll do hybrid. Today, we have no option. All our core banking workloads are also being migrated to the cloud. All our digital platforms are from day zero cloud-based. So whatever we've invested, whatever risks we have taken, has given us 170 times economic value over a 15 to 20-year period. That is the real impact and benefit of emerging tech. And when we look at our banking sector today and compare it to other sectors like maybe, I don't know, manufacturing or healthcare or services or retail, we have been way ahead of it. All what they're trying to do today is, we have done it like decades back. And all these transformation platforms now can be simply leveraged and used by sectors who need it the most, especially manufacturing, healthcare, logistics. We also, I also saw to it that the going digital and going transformation, in fact, also increases. So it's not only about the economic value and a lesser cost of total cost of ownership, but also I found that going digital actually increases our overall GRC. And I saw that live in Barclays. I saw that live in State Bank. And that's important because banks and other regulated entities, we make only money on lending. We don't make money on bots or customer experience or user experience. We don't make money on that. We don't even make money on payments. We spend a large amount of money on payment infrastructure, but we make money on risk management. We make money on lending. So a lot of our focus has been to not only go digital, implement digital, do the transformation, do the innovation, but also to increase the governance, risk, and compliance. And that's not only important for banks, I think that's important for all industries. And recently we have seen why it is important, right? We have seen the kind of tragedy with some of the leading stock exchanges, right? I mean, it's just a shame to see that information. It's just a shame, right? We simply can't figure out how this can happen in a country where we have actually done these platforms of mass innovation and transformation, right? I've also seen that going digital, doing this transformation also increases the technical vitality of the workforce and the organization. Only 1 to 3% of the world, whether it's managerial, technologists, non-technologist, world, have got experience with emerging tech. That's too less. That's too less. It needs to cover a lot more. And this is exactly what the world wants. The world today wants automated, autonomic, audited, headless, digital transformation platforms. We don't want something to replace our Excel sheets, or we don't want some small app running around somewhere. We don't even know who uses it. Or we don't just want software which we have bought over the years and half of it we don't even use. I can tell you that the top 30, 40 global banks only want deep tech. They only want transformation, they only want innovation. And this need, a lot of the questions are around jobs, right? You're talking about, innovation, transformation, sounds scary because my job will go. I can assure all of y'all that the amount of jobs in transformative technologies, exponential technologies, emerging technologies is 1,000 times what is available today in annuity IT. The massive scope to automate everything, bring out the analytics, integrate everything, massive amount of scope. There's also a lot of scope in the entire application modernization. And over the years, we realized that everything has a platform shelf life. And today, with the advent of emerging technologies, especially like low code, no code, where I can write enterprise applications, and I've done it myself, at least on the mobile side, where I've developed these applications in a couple of weeks. If you ask me in Barclays or in Barclays that would you be able to deliver an enterprise mobile application using the stack available at that time there was no low code, no code. I would have said it would take at least about 3 to 6 months. Here we can use emerging technologies like low code, no code, which is simply these tools or platforms by which you can get these DIY, do-it-yourself templates. And without writing a single line of code, or maybe writing one line of code, you can build the next generation applications all by yourself. So what is the
So then just a couple of questions. Can we take it now? Maybe, and then.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think one question is from Abdullah. He's asking, what was the first significant digital project in our country? I mean, there are a lot, but there was a start point perhaps, and you mentioned it was done way before the buzz has come in any case. But what do you think was the start of it?
I think there are two or three, a couple of them, which really, have energized us. One was the entire digital payments infrastructure, right? The entire NPCI, UPI kind of digital infrastructure. In fact, we probably now have the widest use case coverage and the widest payment options anywhere in the world, thanks to the digital payment infrastructure that we've established. In fact, NPCI was established by State Bank and by RBI. We still have a board director on NPCI, right? And it's truly successful today. Absolutely successful. In fact, today, RBI has just announced or just launched the digital payment facilitation for customers who don't even have a smartphone. Even a basic smartphone, a basic cell phone can now be used for digital payments. Fantastic innovations. Fantastic. The second biggest, probably, I would say the other big innovation was the most successful financial inclusion transformation that we've done in the country, which is called the Jan Dhan accounts, right? Last I checked, the entire balance of these Jan Dhan accounts was running into 1,30,000 or 40,000 crores. It's become a bank by itself, right? These are accounts which can have zero balances or maybe 10,000 rupee balances. A big success. Probably SBI, we must be having more than 100 million of these accounts. Big success. Because along with digital payments, along with financial inclusion, that is the only way we can transform our financial system. And we have an incredible financial system. It's so incredible that people who need the money don't get the money. And people who have enough money get even more money. And some of them are either absconding and a lot of them don't even return the money. Incredible financial system. We got to change that. We got to fix it. We got to fix it.
I think on the same, I think an extension to it, the question from Dr. UK Srivastav. He's saying why nobody came to know of the fraud. Of course, it's a slightly different question than the topic itself. But I think if you just want to talk about it, because systematic, I mean, from a system point of view, it should be able to at least flag. There should be some early warning system.
Absolutely, fantastic question. So on the fraud, and coming from the bank, I would like to share all this knowledge so that you don't have to wait in queue at SBI or Barclays and get the knowledge after 6 months, or you never get even the knowledge in 6 years. But nevertheless, so I can share all this stuff. It's my duty to do that so that we can raise the entire technical vitality of the country and our workforce, and everybody else, right? So fantastic. So the total amount of fraud in the country in 2019 was a whopping 1,87,000 crores. This is money lost by banks and customers. 1,87,000 crores. That's more than $25 billion. Right? My view, not the bank's view, was that this money recovered could have been given to could have been very well given to the people who actually need the money. Right? 1,87,000 crores. I mean, it's amazing. Most of these are payment fraud, loan originating system fraud, asset fraud, KYC fraud. Right? I mean, it's crazy. Yes, over the years we have increased the lending. We have given, like for example, a lot of the banks have given these mudra loans, right? So we have done it. We continue to do it. But more needs to be done. right? Especially fraud is something that is unimaginable. I mean, for a country like a developing country like India, which requires every rupee or paisa to be saved and given to given to the people who actually need the money, I mean, such figures are unimaginable, and they continue to happen, right? So here we have put in our efforts. We have put in multi-factor authentication (MFA). We have put in the 3D kind of grid. We have done that. We've also we have also done something called adaptive analytics, wherein, for example, if my credit card I've been doing the transactions in, let's say, Bombay or Pune, and then suddenly there is a transaction flagged off in Bangalore, of course a higher value transaction, then chances are that I could be that transaction could be blocked, and I may get a call from the credit card company or from the bank, or maybe a credit card or debit card, saying that, is this transaction, do you want to go ahead with this transaction? Is this transaction genuine? Is it your transaction? And then I'll have to clear it, or I'll have to just simply call up the bank or the credit card company and say, hey, please process this. I am in Bangalore, and this is not a fraudulent transaction. So we are doing it, right? But still, a lot remains to be done. A lot remains to be done because people are still need to be educated, right? They still need to be very basic things like, don't give your OTP. I just had a golfing friend, senior guy, who got a call from agent posing as somebody from Paytm, and says that, hey, I need to update your KYC, and I need the OTP, and this guy, just must have given it out of wanting to keep his Paytm account or digital wallet account updated, right? And he was zipped off 49,999 rupees. And it's a debit card transaction, right? So that's why I advise all people always do a credit card transaction, because you can always dispute that, right? But in a debit card transaction, you can't do anything, because your directly the money is debited from your bank account, right? A credit card transaction is where you have a credit card company taking the legal liability, and in case you are a high net worth individual, or you have a good relation with that credit card or the bank, chances are, if they're in a good mood, we'll just waive off that. We'll make sure that you're not put to loss, right? But these are things that we need to really fix. Absolutely. Why it is happening is because, for a long time, from a technology perspective, and since y'all are a lot in the consulting space, where a lot of the technology also revolves around your space, what you'll do is that, for a long time, we have only addressed data at rest, right? Data at rest is considered kind of batch data, right? So we overnight get batches. Like, for example, in Barclays Bank, we had more than 550 source systems, right? So this could be your Triumph, which is a credit card data, could be your your other data, your region data, your geography data, your state data, all that stuff, right? So we have to now look at data in motion, right? How the data in motion can be processed, because now we are banks and all are everywhere, right? We are in the digital payments, we are in digital wallets, we are on the social media, right? We launch our products on the social media, right? We're very active on the Twitter, Facebook, all these kind of sites, right? Because a lot of the millennium crowd is basically, they don't want to go and visit a branch. I mean, I just visit a branch once in a year, just to make sure that bank and branch is still there, right? Not that I need to do it, so this addressal of this data in motion is where a lot of job opportunities exist, right? Fraud, solutions around fraud is where a lot of these job opportunities, where a lot of these consulting assignments exist, because this is very critical. Banking is a mission critical service system, right? We have to address more, very importantly, of course, on the run side, we have our core banking systems, where you've seen the benchmarks, right? Best in class, where we have to run them, right? And then we have the change side. Change side is where we need to get all these emerging models, emerging tech stack, emerging tech, exponential tech, like for example, data in motion, right? This is a new subject. Previously, in when we grapple with 550 source systems, we have never done. We have always processed data at rest. Now that's good because we know that data, but the problem is that we know that data after a day at times. What if the fraud happens instantly in real time or near real time? Is there an OTA update, over the air update, which we can get to prevent this fraud from happening? That can only be done by what is called data in motion, where we instantly analyze that data and make sure that chances of fraud or chances of a bad transaction get reduced or get completely eliminated. Okay. So sorry, I forget what was the question. Does that answer your question?
It does. It does. I think you've covered that.
Yeah. Again, again, this entire space, when we look at this digital transformation platforms, fintech, banks, we've always been in the forefront. E-commerce is really the first industry to jumpstart this headless digital transformation platforms, right? That's the first, and there's a lot of leverage that we can do using these best practices into other spaces like edtech, devtech, agri-tech, health tech, and many other sectors, especially also manufacturing. I should even put manufacturing, right? Where we see the entire worlds which will be completely automated, autonomic, and audited. Okay, so just as cars are going to drive by themselves, yeah, there have been a few crashes, but that's fine, right? But post COVID, we are living in a digital, contactless, and seamless world. And that world can only be addressed by automated, autonomic, audited systems. In fact, in the bank, in SBI, when I was there as head of innovation till 2018, we used to have the discussion, that in the future, in 5-10 years, will we be as managers there, or as, will we require an operational staff? We may not, because even banks are going to go headless. We've already gone headless, right? Our Yono application, our mobile application, right? Bank in a box mobile application. We are already offering like reduced discounted rates on home loans or other loans. And the entire onboarding process is completely automated, right? It's just Aadhaar based, eKYC, Aadhaar based, ODP based, right? Because, we have seen the kind of time it takes for, even currently, I'm not saying that everything has got replaced, but even currently, there's a long time to even get a home loan, right? You have to get in touch with the branch, or you have to get in touch with their home loan department, or their specialized, home loan department. And then they will send a person, or you'll have to go to the bank and then get your documents. And, all that stuff is this amazing amount of time. Okay. Here we are offering not only the automation, but we are also giving a discount to customers, because it also helps save bank the money. I mean, considering like a bank like State Bank, we've got more than 22,000 branches. Imagine the costs involved, right? Imagine the costs involved in transfer, in moving that money. Imagine the cost involved in securing all those documents, processing it. It's massive, right? And what is a success? A lot of people say, hey, yeah, I was happy with my old Excel sheet, or I was happy with my good old ledger, right? I mean, we don't see that ledger nowadays. But a lot of the questions are asked, hey, Sudin, are you sure this is going to work? Okay, State Bank, yeah, it's a big bank, so yeah, you can definitely do all this innovation transformation. Absolutely. Look at the success of the GAFM world. Google, Apple, Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft. I mean, these are all, some of these companies individually must be having more market capitalization than India's entire GDP. I mean, so it's already a success. It's already a success, right? From a consulting side, absolutely. I mean, this entire, space of automating everything, putting in the AI, putting in the audited kind of systems, is massive because everybody requires it, right? And what are those transformations required, right? Asset tech, right? Or asset management tech, reg tech, regulatory tech, right? Regulatory tech is not only for the regulators. Regulatory tech is now also for corporates, for banks, for corporates, because if you internally don't understand what is the regulation, the central bank is not going to waste time, or the regulators are not going to waste time. They're just going to find you. And it's happened, right? I mean, I don't want to take the name of some certain private banks, but you could see that one private bank in the last few months, or maybe last year or something like that, right? Their entire banking operations were offline for 2 or 3 weeks, not even a day or two. And RBI, the central bank stepped in and they put in a penalty. I mean, big banks are not concerned about the penalty. They are very rich, so they can pay the penalty straight away. But nowadays, the RBI is asking for a root cause analysis, a RCA, of why did your systems fail? And we've had this experience in Barclays. We were, some of our banking operations were not available during the weekend in some of the Middle East countries. And we were, of course, immediately fined. We paid the fine because we are rich, banks are rich, so we can straight away pay the fine, right? But then they asked for RC and they put a time saying that you tell me now from a technology perspective, which are your repositories? Is there governance? What is your data management? What is your enterprise data warehouse? What are your payment systems? Are they aligned to certified by PCI DSS or PSD2? Nowadays, these regulators are becoming even more smarter. They're asking you for a root cause analysis, and let me tell you, it's not very easy to do that. Because now I'll have to check with application teams, with repositories, with our data management, with our governance, with our security. So this reg tech is not just what regulators are trying to push for. It's for large organizations, even mid-sized organizations, even in fact, even startups and consulting organizations will be a very good thing for them to keep this, at the front of their focus, especially in the B2B space. Because if you get this wrong, it's going to be a disaster. It's going to be absolute disaster, right? Soup tech, supervisory tech, leg tech, legal tech, audit tech. Again, the entire audit world has changed. Absolutely. Can newer technologies like blockchain be used? Absolutely, they can be used. Fraud management, $25 billion problem worldwide, more than $100 billion problem. Even the fraud is happening even in the advanced Western world. It's not just relevant to India. It happens all over the world. All right. And the GRC management. Right. And, so there's a lot of stuff, that can be taken up for these as use cases for these digital transformation platforms, especially from a consulting side. And all this is now, on the cloud, right? The cloud, the beauty of the cloud, the beauty of these cloud platforms is that the entire data orchestration, the ability to spin off instances, the ability to start your work immediately without capital expenditure is a given, right? We have to just completely now go cloud native. We have to use many cloud innovations which have come, including something called as CSPM, which is cloud security posture management. Right? There are a lot of sandboxes which have been developed where you can test your solutions. They're cloud native applications, they're cloud native shell or terminal editors, both available in Bash and as well as PowerShell, so that even the developer doesn't have to do the local stuff, and then whenever you ask a developer where is the code, he'll always say local, right? Maybe you say, can I see the code? No, it's on local, I can't show to you, right? So all these transformation platforms will have to also use the same innovations and transformations, right? And take the journey ahead. Okay. Let me pause and ask for any questions.
There is one, but Dr. Pradeep Desai, let me just uh, probably put a disclaimer. Sudin is no longer with SBI. Of course, he consults, but of course he can give his view here. The question is, Yono application of SBI has still many hiccups, and there's been several times when these hiccups would come. So basically, is there a so let us take it this way that there might be some teething problem because it's a big application. SBI, we know, and the massive nature of this application we understand, but once it should settle over a period of time, maybe 6 months, 8 months, then it should settle down. But if the problems are still coming, do you think, and then it could be generic, not specific, generic, do you think there is something else that we are missing, maybe a critical RCA or root cause analysis, which has some sort of a pattern maybe?
No, no. In fact, that's a very good question, and well asked, because that's where it's good that the application has these problems, because that's a very good opportunity for you guys to step in. All these banks require a lot of optimization, a lot of RCA, a lot of audit, a lot of experts to come in and help them with their solutions. Is the way it is. So I would not see that as a challenge. I would see that as an opportunity. It's good. I would play it the reverse way. At the same time, we have to also realize that apart from the problems, yes, there are problems. Because compared to other mobile, digital wallets or applications, this is comparatively quite new. So it does take time to mature and solve the problems. But at the same time, look at the benefits, right? So if you're wanting a loan, right? I mean, to be very frank, again, I mean, since I'm not in the bank, I can always be very polite and impolite. But we make our money not on user experience or all that all that show. Right? We make our money on lending, right? We make our money on credit risk. We make our money on risk management, right? So we focus on where the money is, right? And so you can definitely step in and help all these banks, and it's not only SBI, but although I've seen that certain banks like ICICI and all, I think they're probably far better matured, and probably their applications run much better from a digital wallet perspective or from a mobile application perspective. But these are great opportunities. I mean, this is great opportunity for if you all are they're consultants who can help solve these. And let me tell you, banks, I mean, we have problems every day, right? I mean, look at the size, 700 million plus accounts, 500 million plus customers. There are going to be problems.
Right. So then the audience could be slightly mixed here, maybe who could be focusing on different industries. Now, from what you are saying, I think what is evident is headlessness in terms of the nature of it will have a bearing on each of the industries. Financial services, it's the incentive is way high, the way how things is, e-commerce, etc. But even other industries where the headless nature of technology is critical. I think what you are essentially saying is these could be opportunity areas, because when it is still not smooth, perhaps for consultants like us in different areas, we could probably help to make the journey smoother.
No, absolutely. So if can you all see my screen, right?
Yes, we can.
What are these characteristics of headless platforms, right? It all deals with, it's a merger, it's a convergence of big data and the compute network and storage, right? So we're looking at velocity, we're looking at variety of data, we're looking at the volume of the data. And this is every day expanding, right? And then we look at the compute network and storage, correct? So when now this is, for a technologist like me, hey, this is, yeah, I mean, I breathe this and live this every day, right? How does this relate to a consultant, right? How does it relate to a consultant who is, let's say, servicing a manufacturing industry, or maybe a retail industry, or maybe a healthcare industry? It's very relevant, Because these characteristics, these workloads of velocity, variety, volume, compute, network, and storage have to be analyzed and then optimized. Right? Typically, how we optimize them, right? When we do our consulting, by the way, I come from the IBM, global services, right? Which is, I don't know now, but at my time, it was probably one of the largest services. I think still is, right? We had, I mean, there have been right now a few spin-offs, but still a very large organization, right? We used to you know, give a time and material or a SOW kind of a job, put an army of people. At our peak, we were 500,000 people, right, in IBM. Maybe services alone would have been 200,000 plus, right? But that's from a consulting side. Now it's completely changed. We have to go to the depth of understanding what are the characteristics of these workloads. And around that, build up the optimization, build up the monetization, build up the integration, build up the decision making, build up the analytics. Completely changed. We can't say that. We can't go to SBI and say, hey, I've got 50 people in testing or 50 people in development, and here they are. You can build them Monday to Friday, and that's it. No, we have to now, as from a consulting perspective, whichever industry you are, right, or whatever, whether it could be professional services or SOW or application management services, AMS, or whatever it is, right, or business consulting services, we have to now go to understanding what are the workloads, right? What is the model? What is the characteristics? We have to now go deep into that space, right? And here I've just built up this is from an e-com perspective. But this e-com perspective, when we talk about, this is a model for which I am both consulting on, as well as delivering these, developing these solutions, automated solutions, right? You can see that there's a huge amount of effort and huge amount of monetization that's now available, right? Previously, we looked at consulting, okay, fine, we could consult, we could give you the services, and okay, you make money, well and good. You don't make money, fine, I get my piece of it. But nowadays it's become very, there's a lot of depth, there's a lot of research, there is a lot of techniques that we have to use, right? For example, something like let me take an example about warehouse management, for example, right? The storage, the tracking, the counting, the audit, the record keeping, these are all now become completely, they have to be completely automated, autonomic, and audited. We can't process this manually, or we can't even have people, because once you have people on this job, it's going to create inefficiencies, it's going to create a lot of bias, is going to create a lot of other problems, right? So when we approach this entire space, it is approaching it completely from the going to the depth of the models, capturing the most critical functions or the mission critical services of that particular function, and then building the platforms or building the consulting services around it. Yeah. Does that answer your question? I don't know. Sorry, who asked it?
Yes, I think it does. I think it goes with saying, and it is.
Yeah, I just took a few slides, but
Sudin, your voice is low.
Is that better now?
No, it's still.
Okay.
Yeah, this is better, I guess.
Yeah, is it better? Yeah.
Yeah, better.
Okay. Yeah, so we typically run, from my experience of implementations, and even whether it's a large company, or even if I've used the same kind of models for my even startups, we run the organization and change the organization. So run the organization, making sure that everything runs in terms of our ERP or core banking or payments or risk management or analytics. And then change the organization is where we are getting in all the latest and greatest of technologies and building up these digital transformation platforms, right? Which which bring in the maximum value and bring in the economics of scale, which has not been witnessed over the years, right? This is absolutely going to, and is just going to be the start. If you think that, Amazon has done it and that's the final story on it, no, there's a lot more that needs to be done. Okay. Why we're doing it again? Because of VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguity. This was a term given by one of the American commanding generals way back during the Afghanistan war in early 2000. And it's still, and as technologists, we have taken this very seriously because the same word exists even today. Be it the withdrawal of the American troops in Afghanistan, or be it now COVID, or be it now the Ukraine-Russian war. I mean, it's the same kind of stuff. So we have to keep at it, right? It's got to be relentless. We got to keep. In fact, I can share that. Although SBI is a government-owned bank, a public sector bank, I was told by the stakeholders, by the directors, by the chairman that just go ahead and fail. Doesn't matter if you fail fast, and go on to the next technology. Right? So we have to take the shot. We have to keep innovating, keep transforming, and and it doesn't matter whether it is a consulting engagement or whether it's a pure platform engagement. The same drivers, the same models are going to exist. I don't know, I can probably wrap this up in 5 minutes and then we can open up the floor. Have you
Sure.
guys even understood a word of what I've said? Because I have not understood of what I've said. All right, and but somehow I seem to be popular and seem to be recalled back to give even more lectures. But it's good if you are not understood, because that's good. Only then innovation and transformation will happen. Okay. Great. So I will just quickly go over the rest of the slides. In terms of exponential technology and hardware, there's a lot of activity around the drone technology. There is also a drone policy that has been framed out. A lot of investments, a lot of benefits and incentives also being forked out to entrepreneurs and MSMEs. That's one great opportunity.
Semiconductors, I guess that's one of the.
Yeah, I mean, semiconductors. I don't know why we missed the bus, but I mean, it has to be. It has now become a kind of a national, mandatory thing to have, because that's something that is going to be the future. There's a lot of new innovations coming in. There's CPUs, there's GPUs, there is also the nanometer technology, which has gone down now below 7 chip fabrication. There is also the emergence of something called as HCI, which is hyper-converged infrastructure, where I just buy a hyper-converged infrastructure where I don't have to separately buy a compute server, a network server, and a storage server. I just buy a HCI server, and that's it. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to keep track. A lot of opportunities again. A lot of opportunities. And on the software side, things like low code, no code, fantastic. You don't require Mr. Baraokar, or you don't require a data scientist. You can do it yourself. Even if you're a business guy, a pure consultant who has never worked on even a single line of code. By the way, there are a lot of technologies who have not even written a single line of code, but that's not the point. A lot of these technologies today, whether it's the analytics side, the cloud side, the low code, no code side, is something which is DIY. Right? I recently gave training on cloud to some of the big enterprises. I gave it on GCP, Azure, AWS, and Google, and IBM Cloud. Sorry, GCP is Google Cloud. And the question is, did I learn from? No, I learned it myself. I learned all the cloud myself, went to the depth of it, and delivered the training. Right? And all these cloud today is becomes so fundamentally important because again now become complete DIY, right? There's a template offered. There is it's like a typical services oriented architecture. There's the cloud provider, the cloud manager offers a template. The user, the consumer fills up the data, and the cloud manager will then orchestrate all the resources to help the consumer build up those various solutions. Okay. uh, a lot of the, I think, a last couple of slides, and then we can open the house. A lot of the stuff also in these headless platforms, primarily initially the objective has been more on the programming stack and on the code and a lot of time, and there's something called as technical debt, right? I mean, in one of the large global banks, which I'm not going to mention, which I've worked in, but of course you all can take a guess. I mean, we have written so much of code, like we probably would have even more than 10,000 code repositories. And shocking to say, we don't even know who is that being governed by, who is owning it, what is that code, can we reuse it, whether it is going to be required for a RCA. It's shocking, right? But now the focus is on more on data science, more on AI, more on machine learning, more on low code, no code, where you can now make everything programmable, right? You can use this instead of focusing on tech stacks. You don't have to do that because now you have low code, no code. So you can focus more on the mathematics. For example, for your headless platform, you'll require optimization models, right? You need to optimize everything. You'll have to create virtual inventory stacks. What are you going to use? So there are these commercial solvers available. It's a mix of linear programming, quadratic programming. They're called commercial solvers. You can just Google them, or you can just check with me on LinkedIn and just message me, and I can help you with that. And this is where today the next generation of platforms are being built. So when we look at the automation, or we look at the audit, or we look at the autonomicity of these platforms, it's because now we are programming it from a data science perspective, right? Previously, it was, we built up these large financials. So for example, in banking, we have used financial services logical data model, and we still use it successfully. It runs perfectly. But now, if I have to optimize my lending, if I have to, let's say, put in a far optimized model for financial inclusion, right? Jandan accounts. I mean, if you're saying that, how does a big bank monetize on Jandan accounts which are having no balances, right? It can be done because now you can tie up these no balance accounts, right, which are Jandan accounts, to the various other schemes, given by the central governments, given by the state governments. You can link that up and bring that benefit to the citizen who actually the owner of this account, these Jandan accounts, who can then derive all those benefits. He can make use of those schemes. Okay, so I've seen that there's a lot of data science that is coming in. The focus now is more on data science, on analytics, on AI, and not on the programming, which is a good thing, because the technical debt has to be controlled, has to be managed. Technical debt is the amount of investment we have put in into resources, into programming, into our tech stack. So that is like no longer a challenge, right? Because with the advent of automation and low code, no code, and RPA, robotic process automation. So now we can focus on these commercial solvers, on the data science aspects on it, and then also align to these autonomic worlds, wherein increased use of AI and analytics will also increase the amount of monetization opportunities, as well as make the entire platform and the services extremely efficient. Okay, so I would just leave it as, take the shot, just don't waste any time. Today we are seeing the success of tech. When we look back, we were challenged. We said that, hey, why do we require internet banking? Why do we require mobile banking? Why do we require financial inclusion accounts? Why do we require anything? But today we can see that how the banks have gone way ahead of the crowd, right? And we are still investing. It's not that we have stopped. We are going to further invest to make sure that everything now, whatever has become automated, now will become autonomic, right? So that whatever operating costs, why we're doing this, because the operating costs in banks, I don't know about other industries, we have a 55 to 60% operating cost. We have to bring that down to 20-30%. Otherwise, we won't make any money, right? So I'll leave it at that, and wish you all the very best with all your great, a great great work that you all are doing, and thank you for hosting me, and open to take up any questions.
Sure. Thank you, Sudin. Uh, I want this one question, I think, which is also interesting, and maybe at a point I'll request Kiran also to elaborate. Um, of course, from a slight precursor to the question, let's say if we are eyeing a 5 trillion economy, and unfortunately the current trade deficit is just going to increase because of the unfortunate scenario which is going on due to the crude oil prices. But at least traditionally, technology has been a space where we have really been able to cover that gap to a great extent in terms of exporting it. And today there's an opportunity not only from a software and services point of view, it is also the the mix of hardware, software, and maybe technologies which are ingrained amongst each other. Whether we call it drone technology, which definitely has a lot of use cases, and it is already being used at different areas, to semiconductors we spoke about, to a lot of other within the agri-tech, because food shortage is also round the corner as we move ahead in future. So from that point of view, what do you think from a technology point of view, which is, if we just focus in terms of the blockchains, AIs, and the emerging ones, where do we stand in terms of the export opportunity? And just one more point, Kiran, if you want to elaborate on this, or if I've missed the crux of it, please do.
Done a great job, and let's compliment Sudin for a fantastic journey in such a short time. Sudin, I really appreciate. What my question was that while in a tax services we have been done a great job in exports, but in a consulting space, still exports from India remain very low. So I was wondering whether the new world, how can we think about this export opportunity where we can be exporter of the certain type of consulting services from India?
So I think the consulting services is, yes, we have not really been, because typically, most of the IT services have been in the past based on labor arbitrage, right? It's because obviously the dollar and rupee rate, and the availability of younger programmers or younger support staff is obviously key to running all these services, right? But now everything is becoming, the focus is more on what value you can bring. Can you offer a consulting service around a headless platform, right? Can you use like, for example, can you use your services, bring it around, let's say, a commercial solvers, right? Can you bring in data science to your consulting practice? Can you create these optimization models or virtual inventory models? Today, if you don't get your virtual inventory model right, you're not going to make any money in this e-commerce, right? So that's how it entirely works, right? The entire logistics, everything will fail, right? Supply chain, logistics, payments, everything will fail, right? So if you can use these concepts of, predominantly, we've been more in a project management mode, or more in a kind of a project execution mode. Now we have to look at how we can, for example, if these platforms are built, let's say if you have a platform similar, a company has a platform similar to e-commerce platform, like maybe Amazon or Shopify or whatever it is, how can you as a consulting service can, get in the data science, can get in these, newer techniques like linear programming, optimization. Entire world still requires optimization. I mean, look at the state of it, right? Today, the entire global supply chain has gone for a toss, right? It means that whatever models we have used in the past, and I recently gave a lecture to, a deemed university in Bangalore. I think it was called the Jain University CMS School or something like that, where they wanted something on, algorithms which have been written like network and all these stuff which has been written like, I don't know, centuries back, right? I said, look, everything is now completely data science based. Everything you have to look at how you can solve a organization's problem, right? So if you can tweak your or readapt your model, right, wherein you are now going to get into data science, you're going to get into commercial solvers, you're going to get into how I can solve a virtual inventory problem, how I can solve a optimization problem, how I can solve it. Everything is linked, right? Every function of this, whether it's a storefront or whether it's a connectivity or whether it's a inventory or distribution or refund or a claim or an audit, everything of this requires a service.
Correct. I think that's
Right.
very
So
good
in two
perspective.
ways, you can also, as the platforms are being built, you can consult with them. And even the platforms which have been built, which have to be maybe further modernized or optimized. And everybody, if you think that even some of the reputed e-commerce players have everything in control, sad to say, nothing is in control, right?
True. Great opportunity.
I can tell you of a lot of horror stories from the problems, and that's a great opportunity for you guys. Absolutely great opportunity. It doesn't have to be e-com. It can be manufacturing. It can be a lot of the other industries, right? Healthcare. Healthcare is a complete wipeout. I simply don't understand how they can't track or predict oxygen levels, or how much inventory of medicine they want, or how to it's a complete collapse, right? Forget hospitals, the entire global supply chain. These are big companies, automotive giants who are more than 100 years old, are not able to predict, are not able to even optimize their supply chain. They can't even get chips in time, right? They can't even make the cars in time, right? So there's a lot of scope in this.
I think wonderful. Thanks for addressing it.
Okay, I have two questions, but I can obviously leverage to have those questions in person some point in time. But anyone here, if you have a question, I think we can take one. You can unmute.
Person would mean over lunch or dinner or something like that.
Let's see, for sure. Then I'll have a lot more. By the way, not two. Then I'll have a lot more.
You just tell me when, so I can start my upas and then come over here.
Sure. So anyone, if you have a question, please, you can unmute and maybe ask your question. Of course, on the chat, there are people who really liked your the perspective, the view that you have thrown up, for sure. But if there's no question, then I'll ask one of my two questions at least. Okay. So I think when we talk about emerging technology, etc., there's an elephant in the room, and you did touched upon it initially, and I completely agree with you. But I think from a broad base attendees of this, the general perception is, if we look into headless technology, it is cutting down the resources, the human resources, which obviously for a country or a continent like Asia, for example, not only India, I think Asia, which houses about 50% of the global population, in fact, 60% of the global population, it's a big challenge. And if the emerging technologies are doing, let's say, with robotic process automations, etc., there's still a threat of it putting off few people from the job. Now, that could be also because of the skilling requirement, because that's a big concern today when we talk about the skilling and reskilling part of it. What are few of the things that you think, at least if we focus in our country, because Asia by and large would show the same trajectory, you would think that how should we move on this? Would skilling be a big part of putting more and more people to complement with the technology, or do you still see a big gap here?
So I wouldn't agree with the fact that all this is rocket science or black magic or something. So the first AI system, I would like to pose a question to the participants, to the esteemed members, is that, can somebody tell me when was the first AI system developed? Which year?
I think 62 or something. I think 60s or 70s, back in
any
those
other
days.
Any other guesses? Any other wild guesses?
I hope no one puts Mahabharata days, which of course is always possible.
No, it doesn't have to go that far. But the first AI system was invented more than a century back in 1913, 1914 in the form of an autopilot. which was invented by Honeywell way back, more than a century back. The same autopilot today has saved billions of lives, right? Flying is still the most, yeah, there were a few crashes, but flying is the safest way to travel. And did that autopilot replace the pilot? No, it works in perfect synergy with the pilot. This was more than a century back, right? In the 90s, we had the, IBM, coming from the IBM world, we had the, Deep Blue, our supercomputer, beat the greatest champion on earth, the first one to cross a rating of 2800, the yellow rating, Gary Kasparov. The computer system beat it, right? And the third part is that, what is the success in India, right? Let's take the live example, and we all experience it every day in our lives. Let's take the chauffeurs of Ola and Uber, right? They learned English by themselves. They learned GPS by themselves. They learned customer service by themselves. They learned automated onboarding by themselves. They learned smart route optimization by themselves. Did industry teach them? Did the government teach them? Did academia teach them? Did we teach them? No. Today, that same chauffeur can earn 5 to 10 times more. And that same asset is giving 10 times more economic value than before. And we know the system and the service before, right? I mean, you would see lines of queues of, and you still see them, but of course now they're reduced, right? So who taught these guys? I didn't teach them. I can bet you nobody taught them. They all did it by themselves. So if you're saying that it can't happen in India, it's already happened, it's already a success. I can tell you that some of those chauffeurs are better at the smartphone technology, or they make better use of GPS than even our own IT professionals and peers and maybe some of our computer engineers, right? I mean, shocking. I mean, I also, being a computer engineer, I must confess, I mean, it's shocking. But so, innovation is not new to India, right? When challenged, we have to change. There is no option, right? Can this model be adopted to other? This is the same. It's headless. What is that app? It is headless. You don't have to call up a call center. You don't have to call up the boss of Ola, Uber, or you don't have to call up the taxi union leader, right, to take his approval to drive to a certain location or to drive a certain passenger to a certain location. It's completely headless. It's completely automated. It's completely seamless. It's completely digital.
On that note, I think it's a very good note
Did we even invest did India even invest a single rupee in that? No. We got it for free, right? Of course, they're taking their fee. But yeah, I mean, innovation and transformation comes at a cost. I mean, they have to take that fee. They have to also survive. Right? Now, can we leverage these technologies and further implement it across the globe? Be it banking or manufacturing? Absolutely. This is where the opportunity is.
Sure. So I think this was really very important, at least coming from you, Sudin, specifically because you have been sort of the pioneering group to get into the groove in these technologies. And as you mentioned, it was heartening to note for all of us that our banking has invested in these technologies way before, and probably before what we would have thought ideally that India could think in that breadth then. And for sure, it shows up now while we may not realize, but if we just take a pause and think back, probably these are the technologies which has served us well. It has ensured that the difficult aspect of the time we never realized, because the services were on, we were still able to do transactions, etc. Deliveries were on, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, it definitely ensures that we always had a stronger foundation in these space, and very, very confident with what you mentioned, Sudin, that the future, there's a lot of opportunities both for us as consultants, for companies in terms of innovating, and if we look fast forward maybe 5 or 10 years also down the line, in terms of us really making the move to the 5 trillion and beyond, maybe 10 trillion economy, because these will be critical as we adopt to these technologies, etc. One very important aspect that I think you brilliantly clarified, it's not a tussle between people and technology here. It's basically, if we just go back in history, it has always been a disruption, then probably how we supplement and complement along with it, and then we move on. So perhaps it could actually be a point where it creates more job than it is there now, because a lot of people may now start doing a much better analysis than just the data entry part, which obviously has poses a big problem today.
In fact, if I can just take a few seconds, there was a question on the export opportunity, right? So in fact, I conducted a workshop for one of the big 4 consulting companies, and they were basically working with the government of UP, which is promoting things like ODOP, right? One district, one product. And various OROP and ODOP and their whole lot of schemes, wherein they're trying to also see that how the entrepreneurs and MSMEs can also, come together, come together as a cluster, work, collaborate with the state government, with the central government, with maybe the banks, with maybe the NBFCs, with maybe the micro lending institutions, maybe with Exim Bank. I'm not sure, but this is also happening, right? So there's a lot of feelers coming to me as to how to get to the export market, because that's the next big thing, right? Because with the rewiring of the world in terms of supply chain, and with the opportunity for India, especially in terms of manufacturing and a lot of the other products which you can do, a fantastic scope. And there's a lot of work that remains to be done, because and these schemes are now very seriously being pushed by state governments, right? So that's a great opportunity again. As consulting companies, we can also work together and take those things ahead.
Sure. On this, thank you very much, Sudin, for the time. I think excellent session, thought-provoking for most of us, and also answered some of the questions, made us believe in our technology foundations and the way ahead. So I think, thank you very much for that. As I said, I personally have a list of questions I'll come back to you on, and we'll connect.
But only either over lunch, so that's over breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We'll call it an event. Yeah.
Done. I can afford that.
Give me a 1 or 2 day notice, so I'll do complete UPass and come prepared.
Sure. I would request everyone, if you can just turn on your video. I'll just take a quick picture as well, so that we can share memory. Anuj, I see a new look with you. There's some makeover that you're doing, I believe.
Just grew my mustache back, that's all. Hi Sudin, how are you?
Yeah, doing good. I'm always very happy. I love my life, and next 20-30 years, that's all I'm going to do. Innovation and even more innovation.
Super.
Very nice. So just 10 seconds, if you can switch on your videos for people who are yet to. I will just take a click in any case. Right. All right. So thank you very much for joining.
Thanks, everyone. Wish you all the very best. And please reach out to me. I've just put my WhatsApp number and email, as well as on LinkedIn. Right now, there's only one Sudin Baraokar, the humble innovator. So please do connect with me, and look forward to collaborating with you guys, and wish you all the very best with all your great initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. Wishing everyone a good evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye.